Hi, I'm very pleased to be here. I am Luisa Mestroni. I am a professor of medicine cardiology at the University of Colorado, Anschutz Medical Campus. I am the director of the molecular genetic program of the Cardiovascular Institute, where we do some translational work going from the study of outcome of our patient to more bench work like gene discoveries, finding new therapies. And I am also the director of the Inherited Cardiomyopathies Management Clinic, where my colleagues send patients for having advices and guidance in how to better treat a patient with genetic cardiomyopathies. And finally, I am the principal investigator of a registry that was founded in the 80s and now collects over 2,000 patients and their family members. And that's the very important collaboration we have with our patient to improve their health. And I have been asked to talk about the involvement of sarcomeric genes in the origin of cardiomyopathies. And as you know, sarcomeric genes have a major part in the development of cardiomyopathies. First of all, there are two major types of cardiomyopathies. Cardiomyopathies in which there is a good pump function, but a thickening of the heart muscle called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and diseases in which instead there is a progressive dilatation, a weakening of the pump function, and those are the group of dilated cardiomyopathies. Sarcomeric genes can cause both of them. Actually, they have a major part in the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy group. And what we know is that approximately half of the patients that present with a hypertrophic cardiomyopathy have a sarcomeric gene. The major players are the beta-myosin heavy chain gene, the major motor of the contractile machinery in our heart muscle. Another major gene is the myosin binding protein C3, which is important because, as we will talk later, it's one of the genes that can be used for gene therapies. There are other genes that are more rare, like troponins and tropomyosin. So it's still in half of the patients, we still don't have a answer in terms of discovering or finding their genetic cause. And this is also, as you can imagine, the reason for active research. Then there is the group of the dilated cardiomyopathy. In the dilated cardiomyopathy group, actually, the sarcomeric genes represent, let's say, a less frequent cause of dilated cardiomyopathy. If you want, with the exception of the titin gene, which is still a sarcomeric gene, but it's, let's say, part of the support structure of the contractile machinery. Now, the titin gene is actually the most frequent gene. And it's very variable in terms of how it can affect actually the dilated cardiomyopathy or the severity of the disease. The other genes like tropomyosin, troponin, and beta-myosin heavy chain are a relatively low frequency cause, as I said, of dilated cardiomyopathy. What is interesting is that in terms of how they affect the clinical features of the patients, they usually tend to be in between some more benign genes and some more severe genes. They typically will cause more problems in terms of heart failure than in terms of risk of arrhythmias and sudden cardiac arrest or sudden cardiac death. So again, this is in very general terms. And because until now, we have worked on a relatively small number, so it's difficult to do an appropriate statistics. What the patient should know is that there is a big effort from many the sites to put together all the major centers across the world to join effort and study together patients that have specific genes mutated, specific genes associated cardiomyopathies, so that we can give a more precise answer in terms of diagnosis, in terms what the prognosis will be, what to expect, how soon we have to consider certain therapies, for instance, like the use of defibrillator, and how to develop, for instance, novel therapies. So one thing that I would like to mention is the possibility of novel therapies. And I know that this is something that our patients really, really expect and want to hear. So there are two types of novel therapies that have been studied, and one is trying to modify the molecular mechanisms that are triggered by the mutant gene. So this has been particularly successful for sarcomeric genes, and in particular for the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy phenotype, so the clinical feature of a thickened heart with a good pump function. So even if the pump function is good, as you know, patients with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy may still have symptoms of heart failure, shortness of breath, fatigue, and this is due to the fact that there is sometimes an excessive obstruction of the cavity of the heart, of the ventricle. So it has been discovered that drugs that specifically normalize the actin binding mechanism, the actin myosin bridges in the muscle that are excessive in hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And because there are too many bridges, the heart is forced to work excessively. So it has been discovered that this molecule, like mavacamten or the newer version aficamten, can really be very important for the benefit of the patient. The patients have a significant improvement, most of the patients have a significant improvement of their symptoms, which means some of these patients can avoid a cardiac surgery like the one that removes the excessive heart muscle from the heart. So these are very promising. There has been some trial to study the opposite effect in dilated cardiomyopathy. So how to use these molecules to implement the contractility of the heart. But so far, there has been no significant, let's say, outcome of this trial. We are still looking for new results. The other major group of new therapies, and this is very important because I think that eventually we are gradually moving, at least in a significant part, toward this type of therapy, is gene therapy. So for gene therapy, there are a few things that can be done. So one is when the patient is lacking the correct amount, has, let's say, roughly half of the expected amount of a protein, in this case a sarcomeric protein, gene therapy is used to replace introducing a normal DNA of the gene to replace the amount and bring it to a normal value. So this is expected to normalize the function of the heart. So this is actually done when the gene is relatively small. And that's why, for instance, in hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, the perfect candidate for this type of therapy is the myosin binding protein C3, because it's a small gene. It becomes very, very challenging from the technical standpoint, instead to use it for other genes, like, for instance, the beta-myosin binding protein C, which is a really big gene. So this is actually in trials now in hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. The way it's done is that the patient basically receive one IV containing the normal DNA that is encapsulated in an adenoviral capsid, and it's delivered. The adenovirus is a very topic for the heart muscle, so it will go into the heart muscle instead of going in other organs. When it enters into the cardiac cell, it will free the normal DNA, and this will start producing the normal protein that is lacking in the heart. So another strategy that has been attempted is to repress the mutant DNA, and that so far in cardiomyopathies has not been particularly successful, and so it's not one of the strategies that has been used or that has been in trial so far. And then the ultimate is, of course, to correct the mutation. This is the ultimate perfect strategy. This can correct also when there is a normal amount of protein, but half of the protein is abnormal. It's in preclinical studies, but it's still challenging because one of the downside is that this repair machinery can also affect other parts of the bodies and can also affect other parts of the genome, so causing mutation where you don't want to have other mutations, of course. So wrapping up, I think we are in a position to see the future as really very promising. There is a lot of activities from physicians, scientists to try to investigate novel therapies to perfect the therapies that we are currently having. The partnership with the patient is critically important. We know that patients are very interested in these novel approaches. There has been actually studies showing that patients, even though they are aware that there are still questions although we are confident that we are operating in a safe environment, but still these are therapies that have still several unknowns. But patients are usually very, very interested in these possibilities and these opportunities. And with this, I will stop here, and I will be happy to answer any question if patient would like to reach out.
This video is part of a series of educational videos developed by the Genetic Cardiomyopathy Awareness Consortium and brought to you by the DCM Foundation. Our goal is to connect you with the leading experts in the field of cardiomyopathy to further your understanding of this disease and to provide resources to help you manage your care. Thanks for watching.